Hello, everybody. Welcome to Smartcat webinar series. My name is Kate, and I'm an event marketing manager here at Smartcat. Today, we're going to have a presentation by Jean-Luc Sayar about the project management and how it can be automated. Before we start, let me give you some technical and organizational issues. Everyone's lines are muted to cut down any noise. If you have a slow internet connection, then the audio can be disrupted. If it happens, please dial the number you have in the email from GoToWebinar. We are making the recording of this webinar, and we will send them out tomorrow. If you have any questions, type them into the chat box, and we will have question and answer sessions right after the presentation, and you can ask them. Let's start. Jean-Luc, the stage is yours, please.
Thank you for the introduction, Kate, and welcome to everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, depending where you are located. So in this presentation, we're going to look at how project management needs to change to lead to a better result and also to less stress with the introduction of automation. But before we start, let me just give you a couple of words about my own experience. For some people that might not know me, that's many of them actually. I've been in the translation industry for close to 30 years right now, and I've worked at every level of the process. I've done some translation at the beginning. I did project management, localization engineering, worked with some development teams, and then all the way to owning my own LSP. I've always been fascinated by technology. At an early age, I started playing with computers when I was like 14 or 15 years old, and then this really has pushed me to try new things whenever possible, like implementing the first, DOS-based CAD tools in the 90s, having like server-based application in my own business to help with automation, and working with Smartcat today. The first thing we would like to do, though, before we continue working, I told you a little bit about myself. We would like to know a little bit about yourself. If you could answer the poll that Kate will show you right now, and then we'll take that information down. So, Kate, if you could show the poll.
Yes, please. We have three options. So if you are any of the managing level, CEO, CFO, owner, please choose the first option. If you're a project or vendor manager or you do any similar job, you're managing the projects, please choose the second one. And if any other, then the left. Okay, I can see people answering. Okay, I think we done. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the information. This is perfect. Okay, so if you've been in the industry as long as I have, you can tell that there has been a lot of changes over the past, couple decades. I remember like in the 90s when I started to work in the translation business, you would have like, project that might have like, just a couple of individual documents, and those documents would go into like, 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 languages at the most, so. But when you're talking about the translation industry today, you probably are translating very large volumes of digital content. And if you look at the number of languages that people are targeting right now, they're easily in the double digits, and it's growing all the time. An example I think is that the Google help files I think go to 60 some languages or so. So in addition, the world itself is actually going much faster. If you talk to your customers, they don't really want to wait for translated content for days. They just want to go live with all their languages at the same time. So what has been the result of all those changes? Well, the biggest problem has been an increase of workload for the translation project managers. In the old days, it was just like, sending a few emails back and forth with the customers, the translators. But today, because of the increase of volume, you have dozens of communication each day, hundreds a week, thousands a month, so inboxes are basically exploding, so, and it's not just communication. You're talking about, everybody has to track progress, statuses of projects, and all those different processes that you have to put in place to be an ideal project manager. And then the project manager is really at the center of everything that happens. Myself, I like to, when I do training to the teams, I like to call them the captain of the team. They're the people that are going to be connecting the customers, the translators, the internal employees, and usually what happens is that when things go wrong, the project manager is the first person that's contacted, and they also generally take the blame, when, for example, deadlines are missed or projects don't go well, so that I think this explains very much why project management is really the highest earning profession in the industry. So if this looks confusing, for some of you, it is actually confusing. But at Smartcat, we believe that automation is really the key to helping project managers relieve the stress that they are under. If you think about other industries, like other jobs, look, for example, at a airline pilot. If you go back 20, 30 years ago, they used to fly planes and used to punch in levers here and there and hold the stick the whole time, whatever. But now a lot of those pilots are just relying on technology. They have autopilots, they take off, they put the plane on autopilot and they fly across the ocean, so it should be the same for project managers. The idea is to relieve them of tasks that are not very important so that they can concentrate on solving problems and also being less stressed. So in the following slides, what we're going to do is we're going to dissect, try to dissect the work of a project manager step by step, and then think about ways that they could be automated. At Smartcat, we have obviously some solutions for some of those steps, and for some others, we don't have solutions yet, but we're working on solutions, but our main goal is really to start a discussion on the topic that is so crucial for the success of the industry. Now, if we can give you some context, for what we're talking about, Common Sense Advisory, they had a poll back in 2018 on the topic of project management automation. And you can see here on this slide some results of the poll. Now, you can tell that actually a very small percentage of the people that responded to the poll are automating the entire process. I mean, it's basically less than 10%. But the large majority of the respondents don't implement any automation at all, or they simply automate the basic task. So it might be okay for now, but moving forward, this is going to be probably very difficult for them to manage their customers' requirements. So we're going to actually have the audience quite involved in this presentation. This time, we would like to see if you had been asked the same question by Common Sense Advisory, how would you have responded? So Kate is going to show you again the questions we have. We've listed those different categories. So if you could just pick from that list, what would describe best your approach? So, Kate, how are we doing with the poll here?
Yes, we have some answers. Let's just give more time because it really takes time to read it through and think what processes are automated, which are not. Mm-hmm.
I don't want to sound too impatient, maybe.
Okay. Yes, I think we collect all the answers. Okay, we're done.
Wonderful. Once again, thanks very much. This is perfect. We have some good answers right here. So before we dive into really a detailed analysis, let's just review what we see as the standard steps, in the translation process, and for many of you that are actually in the industry, it's probably very familiar. You handle the customer requests and you get the files and all that, from your customers. You prepare the project. Then you need to find translators. Already, you might have those translators. You need to look for new translators. Then you go through the translation process, different steps, there. And in the middle of all that, you have quality assurance steps, that are ongoing, and then finally deliver the files to the customers, and then you get paid, and you pay your freelancers. So that's pretty much the process. It's nothing really out of the ordinary there. It's pretty much what you guys go through every single day. So let's just try to go through those steps, one at a time. What happens is that very often those steps are going to be divided among a few people. It's going to depend obviously on the LSP, but I think in many cases what's going to happen is that the project manager is going to end up doing most of those steps, and they might obviously going to run multiple projects at the same time. So I think this is going to increase the risk that things can go wrong. So we really need to go see what we can do to eliminate those errors. So the first step that we have is handling the customer request. So the goal here, as I'm sure you're familiar with that, is to go quickly, from a state where the customer sends, a file that needs to be translated, and they get a quotation and a deadline from the LSP. So the sub-step of this process are just like you receive the files, you do a word count analysis, you prepare a quote, and you see if there are additional requirements, like if you need to get graphics, and software steps and things of that nature. So if you don't have any automation, the problem that you have is that you don't have a standard way of placing an order and also accepting the projects. Everything is done using emails or instant messengers. So this can really lead to some errors. You might have, like, for example, emails that are missed or lost. If you have like a request for change for an existing project, you have to try to remember which project it was and track everything down. Lots of manual steps, that are needed. You need to fill out information on whatever your system, like, project names, and track down, the different projects for each customer. And then the idea is that at the end, it might create like a long wait for the customer, like waiting for a quote. They want something as quickly as possible. So and if you don't respond very quickly, the customer would actually give the job to someone else. So really, the problem, the result of this process is that the vendor and the customers are just never completely in control of the entire process. But with automation, what happens, so the process, the customer request will be processed much faster. Instead of, for example, sending an email, the customer can just simply upload a file using a portal. And if they use a portal, they would get an approximate quotation right away. They would have an estimate, and then the project manager doesn't have to rely on receiving emails, downloading files, or anywhere, And if you're a project manager and you work with many small orders, then all those manual operations, receiving emails, or downloading files, whatever it is, it's really a major time killer. So the idea really is that using automation, like for example a portal, like something that we offer on Smartcat to our customers, then it simplifies the process of a customer request. So another alternative is to enable continuous localization. And the idea there is to use connectors, for example, to content management systems. And we're talking about like major ones like, WordPress, Drupal, Joomla, Git, all those different places where people store data and have automated exchange of files, of data, that really eliminates a lot of overhead, that's related to the start of a project. And also if you have updates, and of course updates in today's localization happens all the time, when you're talking about people that have like new releases every couple of weeks, for example, so. But with continuous localization, the content that's required for translation is always, there updated in the project, so. And obviously, the biggest outcome of the automation at this step is that really eliminates human errors. You know that for sure that the file that's being translated is the file that needs to be translated. There's absolutely no error that is possible. You also eliminate all the manual actions, that could be costly in time and money. So really, as a result of automating this process, the project managers is always ready to receive a new order, and then the customer can also feel better about the fact that the projects are really being handled reliably. That's the big difference. Now, the second step of the process that we're going to look at how we can possibly change and automate it is the preparation of the project. You have received the files and you get ready to start the project. So the sub steps in this task could be, you pre-process, you analyze the files. You might need to convert files from one format to the other. You analyze whatever information comes with it, graphics, reference files, whatever it is. You download all your statistics, to share with the team, and then you plan all your deadlines, internal, external. Like you work with your translators, you work with your localization team internally. So if you don't have any automation, it can really be stressful for the project manager. For example, if you're working with large files, a lot of volume, then you need to, for example, split, files into between different translators. You also, if you're working with a project for the same customer, you have to try to remember, if you're not well organized and the data is not centralized, remember, what linguistic assets you need to use, terminology or translation memory. Then you also need to check, how to make your translators more efficient, looking for the files where you might have repetitions, so that the translators actually are the most productive. And then if you're working with software localization, you need to spend some time, obviously, looking for text that doesn't need to be translated and work with your CAT tools, to process those files appropriately. So the idea with working with trying to automate this process is to have a much simpler process. So the idea is that you can have a solution where the project manager can assign very quickly a different part of the document without having to split the document itself, without having to send anything to the translators. So really, it does reduce human errors and it speeds up the process. And then, for example, if a translator goes unresponsive, stops working, for example, for whatever reason, it's very simple with a system such as that to reassign another translator to the part that the translator was working on. There's no need, once again, to resend files, redivide the document or whatever. It's very simple to do. Now, another thing also is that if you have a system that's more automated, where all the data is centralized, it's much simpler to reuse all your translation memories and your glossaries. Everything is going to be located in the same database. And as you know, probably today, you want to try to maintain consistency as much as you can. It's very important when the data is getting chunked. Where your customer might not send you like the entire manual. For example, they might only send you some pages, so it's important that everybody in the team has access to the entire database of previous translation. Now, also, you also want to be able to track accurately your statistics, so that you pay the translator for the work that's actually being done. So when you're working with a more centralized system, translators will benefit from the work from each other. So they might actually have less work that was planned originally, and you want to pay them fairly for the work that's being done. And then another thing that's also quite important, when you at this step also, is that you can, when you communicate with your translation team, to be able to give them information that's contextually accurate. So like if they find, for example, a segment, have information around it, like screenshots or even being able to respond to questions, because obviously the translators are going to be much more accurate when they have explanations that relates specifically to a string. Now, also what you're going to try to do with a system like this going to help you is manage better deadlines. So the system should be able to use, for example, data from the different translators, using the historical productivity, and then suggested deadlines for each workflow stage, based on that data. You have to keep in mind, obviously, that the productivity numbers might vary between translators and also might vary between language pairs and specializations. The average productivity might be very different from one person to another. So if you have a system that tracks all that data, it would definitely help the project managers to be more accurate in the decisions that they make. So the idea really here is that instead of having a lot of disconnected tools and different resources, everything is centralized. The project manager has access to a single dashboards with all the data that they need to make better decisions. The next step in the process, for many people is going to be to look for translators. So you need to find translators that will match the requirement from the customers, the languages, deadlines, the expertise that's needed, So, and for that, once again, there are multiple sub-steps. The first thing, you want to, check to see if you have in-house people already, like, some LSPs might have in-house translators. Go through the freelancers that you already are working with, and you need to make sure that they match your budget and also the requirements. And if they don't, then you need to look for new freelancers, based on those expectations. And then if in some cases you might actually need to look for specialists, the customer is telling you we're going to have a very specific project and we need to have people that have a good knowledge of this field. So without having any automation, what's going to happen is that, the project manager is going to have to first, contact, all their internal team, their external freelancers, whatever, contact them via email, chat, whatever, and make sure that these people are available. This takes a lot of time, actually, so, and then on top of that, you might people that might go on vacation or get sick, so there's a lot of different things, that could happen that could just really mess up this task assignment. So, and on top of that, you talk about the project managers. I mean, they might just actually be too busy already to be able to spend time finding translators. They also have to track, all the data, who's available, who's not available. So, and if they don't have people in their own teams, then they need to start searching for new translators. So, you go to like a job board. Then you need to send like an introductory message. You need to do like some reference check for the people that respond, if they respond, and then you need to onboard the translators into your own process. So that this takes time as well. So, but with automation, the idea is that you move the whole you hold the whole workflow to a single platform. So the project managers doesn't have to waste time switching between, apps, websites. They have a single user interface to manage the vendor sourcing process also, and to assign, the translations to their jobs. Now they also have they will have also more information about the translators, the jobs that they worked on, the experience that they have, feedback on their profiles, and this will also help the system to suggest automatically people that match the requirements for the project. Assigning people really can be challenging. So the problem that you have is that many translators might say that they have experience, in subject matters, when actually this experience might not be ideal. So what you need is a system that use data, that's being stored to suggest, the people that will best match, the requirements. On top of that, when you want to track also the availability of translators based on their workload and productivity, all of those can be calculated automatically. So But as we mentioned, translators don't work at the same speed, so, and they might also not be in the same time zone. So if you need to plan for projects that are multilingual, distributing the work with all the translators can really be challenging, so it's really helpful if you have a system that can help you do the math, for this assignment process. So the idea really is to have a system that can help you find and assign freelancers very quickly, within minutes, if possible. And Smartcat, we have some solutions for that. Obviously, the marketplace is integrated into the system. You have access to over 250,000 translators. We also have implemented recently some ways to automate the assignment, and you can see on some of the screenshots right here, like a new features called Assign to Team, where the system will look into all your team of translators and matching subject and the customers, simply send an assignment to the people that match those requirements. So it makes it very fast. It's completely automatic, So, and then we also recently added a feature that allows project managers to assign not just freelancers to some tasks, but now other LSPs. And this is really can be a time savers working with other LSPs, because that's obviously less project management on their hands, So this is really a solution that we have, to help, this step of finding translators and assigning them also very quickly. Now, the next step in the process is the translation itself. That's really the essence of the work. So the idea is to have the project completed as quickly as possible, but by maintaining high quality standards. So the job of the project manager is going to be to really monitor progress, handle questions from the translators or the customers. Really be careful with deadlines. You don't want to have any missed deadlines, but you also want to plan with your team properly. Now, with that automation, it's really actually quite stressful for the translators. The translators have no way of seeing what is going on. So they don't have the process is like almost like a black box. So they send files to the translators, and then unless they contact the translators on a regular basis and emails, call them, whatever, they don't know exactly where the project stands. And then I know in my experience, it's been like it's one of the most stressful part of the business. Until the last minute, you might not know if the file is going to be delivered or not, because you don't know what the translator is telling you. So, and there's really no easy way to communicate with the translators besides like email, instant messages, and so forth. So once again, you find yourself in a situation when you have to use multiple apps, multiple tools, simply to manage your projects. So, and also, even if you communicate with translators, the project manager has no certainty about what is going on, and keep on, making a reference, because this happened to me in my experience, that, the translator tells you, yeah, I'm working on the project, but in fact, they're just sipping margaritas on the beach somewhere, in the last minute, they just tell you, that they can complete the project on time. Obviously, I'm exaggerating, translators don't sip margaritas on the beach, not that I know of, so, but, the reference is accurate. Basically the project manager is stressed, through the entire project, because there's a complete lack of transparency of what's going on. So the idea with the help of automation is that with a proper system, then the project manager can actually see real-time information about the progress of each document and each task. So they can really address issues before they affect, the delivery. So if for example the translator goes unresponsive, because he's sick or just has any other problem, then the project manager can simply reassign the task to another translator. It's quite simple. Now also with this more centralized system and more automated system, the project manager can also answer questions and communicate with the team more contextually. So instead of, for example, having to send emails and then not know exactly to what segment this relates and having to guess, sometimes, so with a more automated systems, they can, the entire team can actually be aware of the context of a question. And if you're working with a multilingual project, it's even more important because you want that information to be visible to all the translators, so you don't have to repeat yourself, 20 or 30 times, so. And another thing also with automation allows the project managers to get notified if there are possible issues and during important event of the project. So this is, for example, if a project is not progressing on time, if you have approaching deadline, if the translators are too slow, things of that nature. So the result of automation in this case is that the project manager has a better view of the whole process. There's more transparency into the process and can respond to problems much faster. So the way we deal with that in Smartcat is that, for example, like with our dashboard, the project manager can view progress in real time all the time. They would be able to tell if a translator is working or not. So they can also be notified of different events. I'm just showing you here on this screen some of the notifications, that you would a project manager can receive. But we have, I think, well over 20 of them that can be customized. So the project manager is really alerted, of any possible issues, and it can also communicate with the team using either a chat box or using comments inside the editor itself. So there's really a lot of different ways that the project manager can communicate in context, with the team, and that makes it very very important. The next step we're going to address it, and it's not really a step because it's not something that happens at a simple time, is quality assurance. This is obviously going to be a continuous process, in many projects, so you will have steps that happen, before, during, and also after, the project is completed, but here, just to keep things simple, we're just going to, mention it as a simple step, so the idea, there's some of the tasks, that are going to be part of that step is going to be reusing historical data, go through, information about the linguistic asset, the customer, the translators, whatever. Control the quality during the entire process, have interaction with the entire team and see, see how they're doing. And after the project has been completed, learn the lessons of the project and finally handle any complaints that you might have from the customer or compliments, one or the other, hopefully more compliments than complaints, So if you don't have any automation, what's going to happen is that quality assurance is going to be more often reactive and intuitive. Very often the project manager will assign an editor to review a transition that's been completed already, but before the transition is done, is completed, the project manager will have no idea if it's good or not. So once we assign an editor, then we finally find out if the translator was good, was bad, and if we should keep on working with that translator or not. So that's really one of the main issues. And then you also have to obviously keep that data somewhere. Keep notes about the translators, somewhere. And then the note needs to be more detailed because sometimes, a translator might be good for a certain topic and might not be so good for another, so you don't want to disregard a translator because they didn't do a good job on a specific project. It's very possible that maybe they didn't have the right experience, so you need to track all that information, But the result of a lack of automation is the fact that very often project managers will have to simply, rely on whatever intuition they have, when they assign translators to a project. So now, if you're talking with, if you're dealing with automation, then all the files would be in the same, all the data would be stored in the same location regarding all the translators, So if you have all that quality related data in a single place, then the project manager can simply make better decisions, and also they can reuse data that's also reported by other project managers. So there's better teamwork that's ensured right there. Also, what you can have is that you can have a platform that suggests translators based on their experience and also their expertise. And we showed you, for example, how we deal with it in Smartcat, with assignment. So that's one way where those quality assurance feedback might be important. But anyway, so assigning the best matching translator is generally going to lead to higher productivity and better quality. So it's really an important step right there. And then an important part of automation also is the collaboration effort. So if you have a system that allows it, when you can have an editor that works along a translator, rather than working serially, they work in parallel, then you can really eliminate a lot of errors and also increase the productivity of the entire team. So that the editor will not have to correct, the same mistake 50 times. They would be able to actually guide the translator and improve the quality of that step. So with a system that's more automated, what happened is that quality assurance is more part of the entire translation process, and at every single step. And what happens is it generally yields better outcome. Now, the final step in the translation process is actually delivery. The idea there is simply to take the documents that have been translated and send them back to the translators, deliver them. So the sub steps will be simply prepare completed files. So you might have files in different formats that need to be regenerated, and then finally deliver the files to the customer. So without automations, what's going to happen is that depending on the type of files you're working, if you have large files that need to be split between translators, you have to put those files back together. You need to make sure that the format has been maintained. If you have large files to deliver, then you have to upload them to whatever repository that your customer wants to work with. So really, it's a lot of different steps, that are involved, manual steps there that take time and doesn't actually bring up a lot of value to the process. So the process, the purpose of automation here is to try to remove all the manual involvement at this step. So if you're working with a system where the files get split, and can be reassembled at the end automatically, there's no need for the project manager to do that simple step, so that's very quick, so all the files also are in the same location. If we're using a portal, for example, the customer can simply download the files from that portal, and the files are also saved automatically, from the system to the portal. There's no need for the project manager to upload anything. And then the files can also be automatically imported to a content management system, for example, a repository, using automation as well. So all that manual step of uploading, downloading files can also be completely automated. So the project manager has a lot less work to do. So basically what happens is that the project manager, as a result, has almost no work to be done to deliver any of the translation. And then a step that we like to talk about is payments. Obviously, it's not one of the project management steps, but it's part of the process. And very often the project managers are really involved in there, and they're involved in, for example, helping to calculate, payables based on translation, also, or based on hourly, and then someone in the team will need to get paid by the customer, and then also pay the freelancers. So now if you don't have any automation, the project manager might have to reach out to the freelancers and find out what their preferred methods of payment is. Then they would also need to calculate manually all the different payables using the statistics, and then whatever rate the freelancer is charging. And then someone in the team will have to send payments to all the different freelancers and also fill out paperwork, that might relate to taxes or regulations in every single country. So what happens is, like, the project managers and other people in the team just spend a lot more time than needed in that payment process. So, but if you try to automate the process, a new platform allows it, all those calculations will be done automatically. You don't need to calculate the cost of different tasks. It's going to be done by the system using statistics, rates that are being stored for the translator, so everything is done by the system. And you also don't have to make individual payments. A system like Smartcat, for example, we can make a payment. You can make a payment in bulk. You just like, calculate the system will calculate the amount that's owed to each translator. You make one payment, and then that money is distributed to all the freelancers automatically. And then also a system like ours would also deal with all the tax and paperwork, issues, that need to be addressed, so you don't have to worry about learning different accounting problems for different countries. And if you don't do that very often, it could just lead to problems, and in some cases fines, and you want to try to avoid that, so the idea here is really to get rid of one of the most boring part of everybody's job, which is to make the payments, and in Smartcat, the way it's done, once again, you have a way to pay all your vendors with just one single invoice, and you can even receive now with the new feature, you receive payment from your customers, and you can use these payments to pay your translators directly, and you avoid a lot of transaction fees this way, and also foreign exchange fees, so you receive money from someone in Europe, you pay your translators in Europe, there's no foreign exchange, there's no transaction fee, so you save a lot of money and you save a lot of time. So the fear that the project managers have is that automation is actually going to take their job. So the idea is, why would a company need a translation agency if they can do everything with just one click? So, but actually that's not the case. What's going to happen is automation will take my job, but it's going to take the most boring part of my job. So companies will always need help, with globalization, localization. So and actually they might even need more help, because they might need to address more markets, markets that they don't have a good idea of. So what's going to happen is that a lot of companies are going to reach out, to LSPs and project managers for that help, to help them run and manage, all those jobs, and also organize the entire programs when they want to enter a new market. So now those things are not going to happen overnight. It's going to probably take a couple of years. But what we can say for sure is that you really need to embrace automation today, or you're going to be left behind in the years to come. You're going to be working with solutions that don't help you or your customers. So anyway, one final poll, if you don't mind, if you could just we listed some steps in the translation process. Maybe if you could just tell us which of those steps you automate on your side, and that would help us also understand, the people that have addressed, this, that have been attending this presentation. That is it for me. So if you could just simply answer the poll, I would like to thank you for your attention. Hopefully we provided some helpful information, and Kate, you take it away for the poll.
Yes, actually, I was thinking of changing, slightly rephrase the question, because I will explain for the audience, because in the second poll, when we ask you how intensively do you automate your project management, we actually receive about 60% answered that they do not automate at all, which means that this question, are these processes automated, is quite predictive. I think we don't have some surprising answers. So let's slightly rephrase it, and I will ask you to answer the question, which are the steps are most stressful for you, which ones you really like to be automated and to put on autopilot. You can choose two. Let me just give me a sec. Jean-Luc, do you mind if we do this? Because I really think
No, absolutely not a problem. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Kate.
So the question is, which one of these steps you would love to be taken from you or put on autopilot? You can choose two. Mm-hmm. 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 Okay, so I think
we have enough answers.
It's almost, yeah, we have some answers more. Okay, let's wait.
In the meantime, people can ask questions as well. We're going to start the
Yes,
Q&A
yes.
session.
Okay, I think everybody's voted. Okay, close. Maybe we share these results because it's interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Of course.
Okay, so as you can see, yeah, finding translators, handling customer requests, preparing the projects, like more than half of the audience would love to be automated in payments.
That's
and
good.
Delivery is interesting. Okay. Okay, so we are moving to question and answer session. We have already some questions from Amit. I don't know if I mispronounce it or not. What would be the best approach if I have a lot of queries?
I think the best approach, if you have a lot of queries, Amit, is actually contact us, so we can give you a proper demonstration. One of your questions also, you said you would like to see things in action, which is not the purpose of this webinar today, but we'd be more than happy to give you a detailed presentation of the application and how it can help, your company.
I mean, do I get your question in the right way? Maybe you wanted to ask some. Okay.
Yeah.
If you do, please put it in the chat box.
Yeah, I think Amit is happy, right?
Okay. Okay. Do we have some more questions? We'd like to see things in action. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You answered the another one actually. Yes.
Yes.
Customer requests and prepare. Oh. Okay. Someone already has automated process. Okay.
Which is good.
Okay. Okay. No question so far. Okay, then I will ask my question. So as we can see from the results of Common Sense Advisory poll and from the poll we just did, very few companies actually automate projects, and management. Why do you think this is happening? Because it's quite obvious that it blocks them from further growth and blocks all the processes. My supposition would be it mainly costs, very costly, and it's time consuming. Am I correct?
Correct. That is correct. I think one of the biggest issue, people who don't know the market very well. I mean, if you look at most LSPs around the world, they do not have the means, to acquire the most automated tools that are out there, or the combination of tools that you need, to put together a fully automated system. So it's really one of the reasons why, people do not automate their process, because they don't have the financial means to do it. It's very expensive, So that's one reason why, for example, a tool like Smartcat, I think, makes it accessible, for even the smallest company to start working with some automation. As I showed in a webinar today, we don't have solution for every single step, but we have some very good solutions for many of the steps. So that's why we would suggest, that if you haven't tried Smartcat yet, that you give us a try and see how that can help, improve your project management process. But really, like you said, I think the main obstacle is really cost. So.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have some more questions. From Devon, for a long time I have known about is having clients abroad to platform. Oh wait, it's so long. Wait just a sec, I need to read it through. Okay, some people says thank you for the webinar. Do we consider to work with pros.com? Well, we can think about this.
Devin actually, I think, it makes a good point when it's like, talking about having, for example, clients, switch from, for example, sending emails for projects, and rather than doing that, actually uploading files to a platform like a portal, for example. Some people might actually agree, to do it, and others might not. Of course, it's going to depend with the relationship that you have with your customers, but the idea is really to explain to them, how much time they might save, using something like a portal. It's not practical for everything. Obviously, there are some cases, when the projects might be too complex, to be uploaded to a portal, but for your customers, if they have simple translation requests, they can very easily see the advantage of using a portal, not have to send emails, receive emails, get estimates or whatever. Everything is done, with one simple operation, so I think it's, obviously like everything else, like, for example, convincing translators to switch tools or I mean, we're all creatures of habits, we like to keep on working the same way we've been working, so, but the idea is really to show your customers the advantages of working this way that is different, possibly, so, but for many people, I don't think it's a big step, so, but once again, it doesn't apply to everybody for sure, so.
Thank you. We have one more question from Andrea. How can an organization where our work be helped by Smartcat when we need to find external translators for some urgent work when we have a peak and the work is rather specialized, international finance?
Yeah, so once again, Andre, so we have a lot of translators on the platform already, and we also have assignment processes. And I didn't show you all the details. Probably you can schedule a demo as well. When you can find translators that match your requirements. In this case, it looks international finance and whatever languages. You can add all those people to your team. You can have as many people as you want in your team. People that you've tested, people that you feel can answer the requirements for your translation very nicely. And then we have assignment methods, where the whole process can be automated. So if you need something translated from English into Spanish, for example, and you have like 15 people in your team, then the system would contact all 15 people, and then the first person that basically responds because they're available will take the job. So it relieves a lot of work from the project managers. There's no need to exchange information between the different translators, see who's available, who's not available. You basically set and forget. So that's really the idea. So.
Thank you. Okay, one more question from Amit. How are you handling the GDPR requirements within Smartcat and the autopilot mode?
Okay, the autopilot mode actually doesn't have really a lot of impact. I mean, Smartcat is GDPR compliant. If you have questions about it, we can send you more information. The statements of GDPR compliance. So it's not a problem there. So we can definitely. And once again, Amit, it sounds like you are quite interested to finding more information about Smartcat. So we'll be more than happy, to schedule a presentation with you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have more questions? I think.
And I think Amit also wanted to have, you can contact me at email, jeanluc@smartcat.ai. It's not a problem, and I will put you in touch with the correct person, or I can answer your questions, whichever. So. Someone,
okay,
I think Neil Gul is looking for instruction booklet of the features of Smartcat. You can obviously go to the Smartcat website. You can even create your own account. Neil Gul, there's absolutely no cost whatsoever. Smartcat is free to use. You can create your own account, and then we have some help files that can help you get started. We also have some videos, so and if you are interested also, we can organize a presentation for you just to give you a better idea of what the tool can do. It's once again quite simple to use. I like to say that a project manager can learn to use Smartcat in 1 hour, and a translator can learn to use Smartcat in about 20 minutes, so but we'll be more than happy, Neil, to give you a presentation as well if you are interested.
Okay, do we have more questions? Seems like No. Okay, then. Oh, wait.
Okay, Nilko says he's going to be in touch.
Yeah,
So.
I think, yeah. Okay, I think then we can finish.
We can close it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for your participation, for your time, for your questions. At the end, when we close this presentation, you will receive a post. You will see the post survey, post-webinar survey. Please, it will take just 1 minute. It's very important for us to have your feedback to become better. So thank you very much, and we'll be waiting for you in our future webinars. Check our website, smartcat.webinars/webinars, and you can subscribe also to always be informed about the webinars which are to come.
And if there are questions we haven't answered, you can contact me via email, not a problem.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jean-Luc. Thanks, everybody. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.